I am recording. Cold opening for this week. Maude, during her stay in Edinburgh, is trying to go to London on the train and accidentally gets off in Wigan and is wandering around lost. The year is 1979-ish. Would you rather be Maude, or would you rather be a variety of Wigan people?
I'll be Maude.
Okay, and action.
This is the right stop, isn't it? Wallgate. I'll get off here. Oh no, the train's leaving.
Tickets, please, love. Can I check your ticket?
Oh gosh, certainly. Here.
This ticket says, love says that you're trying to get to London. Next train to London is only in 2 days. You just missed one.
How far? Is it in walking distance?
Oh, you're codding me, aren't you?
And what?
Your bloody legs will fall off if you try to walk that far. You bloody puddle thee.
Is it raining now?
It's always raining, love.
Oh yeah.
What you're best set for is go down the road to near Central Park there, and you got an hotel there. You can get up there for probably a couple of bob a night. You'll be alright. 2 days, and come back and you can get on train down to London.
Well, I'm afraid I don't know anybody named Bob, but I'm quite hungry. Is there any way you can point me in the direction of?
You want a bit of Jack, bit? What do you fancy?
I don't know anybody called Jack.
How about a Wigan kebab?
What's one of those?
Well, it's a pie on a barm cake.
Like a cherry pie. What's a barm cake?
Oh, come on, love. I'll show you. Come on.
Don't put your hands on me.
Oh, bloody hell. Well, I'll tell you what, love. You're on your own, because I've got to get back to work here. So bye. See you later.
Thanks for your help. I'll have a walk. Oh, there's another train station here. I'm gonna ask. Excuse me. Does this train station go to London?
No, love. But give me all your money, because I'm a robber. I'm a bank robber. I want all your money.
Oh no, I don't have any. I just have some wind chimes.
The end. Maude, it's my good season 2. French comic lover and woman, ruined apple pies, teaching us the joy of shame. Super secret and managed clipper. Footnote of TV history. Low key hostility is a go-to. She's glaring at Marge through suspicious eyes. Maude-cast season 2, episode 19. It's the 19th episode. It's not the 19th episode of season 2, though. It's the 9th. What do you think? Did you like my factual ending there for people who are confused by us referring to it as season 2, episode 19, when it's really either episode 19 or season 2, episode 9?
Yeah, I'm glad you cleared that up for everybody.
Hello, good morning, Goodman Morning, and Nedcom. Don't eat a hamburger. Would you like to tell us today's sponsors? Nathan, my biological brother.
Sure. There's been a bit of a cull. From what I can remember, we've had some people back out because of some Ben Nevis hobgoblin controversy. So now we're down to the Rolling Eyes girl from the Susan Boyle audition, the Grandma song person, and Cerebus the aardvark has returned financially.
Nice. He's one of my favourites. I think Susan Magdalena Boyle, Facebook Rip, and Cops in Action are still in there. And I don't want to lose Lost, because that's good. We can get into that.
Yeah, they are.
Jack Derrida said
spiritual sponsors.
Spiritual sponsors. Ross Dibney, Multiple Conger Eels Incorporated, Modcasting Corporation. This is what Jack Derrida said to me when I saw him down in Pound Smasher earlier on, checking out the avocados.
If this world seems so threatening, this is because it isn't simply eccentric or strange, but competent, rigorously argued, and carrying conviction.
On that one for a minute. I think Maude has some level of conviction. That's all I really took from that. She sticks by her ideas, I would say, until there's a mob, and then it's just whatever the mob's thinking. Yeah?
For a bit.
Bit of a week.
She goes with mob rule for about 20 minutes, and then she's back to Maude rule.
Yeah.
See, there is something threatening about Maude, and it's not because she's wacky or strange. It's because you think deep in her heart she's got a faith and a conviction. And if she wants to give you a hard time, or even murder you, there's a good chance you're going to get murdered.
Yeah, she's looking more and more capable of it every week. And maybe this week she did attempt to murder somebody. That's something that we're going to have to look at.
It's something that we have to seriously consider. There's the jury. Did the jury ever come back in on that one? So we got time here for the Mauditorium. Give me a number between 1 and 267.
175.
I can't quite remember. I got a feeling that you've chosen several in the 170s. nobody comes to her rescue, including Ned. This is just something she accepts and does not take personally.
Do we know when that could have been from, trying to place?
It says fire. I think we're referring to when Homer shouts her down in the town hall, but there's been other instances where she's been in trouble and nobody's really given much of a crap.
Yeah, even up to her death, it would have taken an arm from Ned, but he wasn't quick enough. I think she sort of knows that about herself as well, that she's fighting a solo battle when Ruth Powers isn't around. She's or Sarah Wiggum. There are two secret allies that don't really like to show it off on camera too much. But Ned rarely steps in to help her when she needs it.
There's a woman today that I took a screenshot of that I'm going to say could even be Janice Hubler.
Excellent.
I'll send you the picture later and you can tell me if you agree. But in the meantime, we're now back from Kits and St. Ben Nevis, and we got back to an absolute nightmare of kittens dressed as gremlins and hobgoblins essentially prowling our factory floor. A curry annex that's now absolutely flooded and seems to have the corpse of TV chef James Martin in it, dyed bright orange, and still the charred remains of a low-fat milk annex. What do you make of this?
Well, it seems that we might have to maybe torch the whole thing and build it back up from the ground at this point. It doesn't seem like it's going to be financially any easier to try and rectify the problems.
Well, you see, the thing is, I think we can get rid of the cats if I brought two hobgoblins back with me. I know it was against all laws and all sense, but I've got two little hobgoblins that I'd like to call Rod and Todd. And I've got a feeling, now I don't know how much you know about hobgoblins, but they really hate elves. Elves really get them riled up. So according to Wikipedia, hobgoblins flip their lids when they see an elf. So all we have to do is somehow get in there and dress these cat gremlins up as elves. So it looks like these cat gremlins don't actually look like cat gremlins. They look like cats and kittens that have homemade gremlin costumes on them. Now, my suggestion is we make our own elf costumes and put those on the kittens, and then let Rod and Todd Hobgoblin just go wild in there, and then we see what happens.
Yeah, I can see that working. I had the plan to we could always call Alf because it would be a cleaner kill.
Oh yeah, tell me more about that.
Well, Alf notoriously likes to eat cats.
Oh, our TV show Alf.
Yes.
Nice.
As opposed to
that fellow that lives down the road with a limp. Because I thought I'd pay good money to see him trying to catch a bunch of cats.
No, the alien.
I mean, obviously,
both of them could team up though. I have no aversion of that.
Alf and Alf. But the only problem with your plan, of course, is that Alf is completely fictional.
That is proving to become a problem, but he did. Mr. Robot got him, so why can't we?
Really?
Yes.
Let's talk more on that later. I'm going to leave it up to you what you do with the body of James Martin. Let's see if there's any vital signs. Fingers crossed. He's been in there a couple of weeks floating in that curry. He's definitely bright orange, but whether or not he's still with us, we don't know. To be honest, a bit of a mess. I thought we got over our arcs and we were home and dry, but it looks like we're in just as much doo-doo as we were a few weeks ago. But anyway, let's forget our troubles and let's move on to content, shall we?
Let's do it. 2 episodes this week.
Tell us about it, Nathan. Testify.
Yeah, well, I thought for some reason I had notes for the first 2 last week, so I haven't looked at it for a bit, but it's the lemon tree episode, the Lemon of Troy, one where there's like a rivalry with Shelbyville over a lemon tree, and Maude is just a concerned parent, and then Who Shot Mr. Burns, part 1, and she is in part 2, so it's our first Simpsons 2-parter. It's not our first Maudecast 2-parter, but it's our first Simpsons 2-parter.
Yeah, they hadn't done really any 2-parters before this, had they?
No, this was the only one until maybe 5 years ago as well. I think they've done a couple more now that I've not seen, but there's definitely 1 or 2. But there was nothing before this or after this for 20 seasons.
So obviously it was quite successful, so I wonder why they didn't repeat it, but who knows what goes on in the minds of the Simpsons men. So So, clip 1. Kids wandering around a town. This looks like Shelbyville. We see Nelson, we see Rod with that nerd who has the big glasses on. You're saying it's Todd. Are you saying it's Todd? Okay.
Todd.
I will defer to the expert on this one. Todd walking with that glasses nerd kid. Barton Millhouse. We cut to Flanders standing on his lawn. Got Ned, Maude, Homer, Marge, the Van Houtens, and maybe the glasses parents. I don't know. There's like 3 or 4 people I don't know. They're all excited and clamoring in this kind of nervous way, except for Maude, who is stood absolutely stony still, doesn't blink, doesn't move a muscle. She just has this fierce kind of neutral look on her face. Once again, their kids are in dire danger. Ned says he called the police chief in Shelbyville, who hasn't seen the kids, but if they turn up at the morgue, they will fax them. Anyone give a shit about the kids? That's kind of like generally the theme that's running through this.
Doesn't seem so. I've got a few notes. First of all, yeah, it's Todd, and we're still in that time of Todd being more prominent than Rod, or them being like separate characters. I don't know, again, we'll a week too late this, so I'll put it in the bio, but I don't know who wrote this episode, but the selection of kids is very weird, and I like it. It's like that kid's called Database with the glasses and ears. I think he's Matt Groening's least favourite character of all time. I quite like him. I'm guessing the guy stood next to Maude is his dad, because there's a similar sort of look, but we'll look at that in the Database cast. So it's weird that Todd's out on this adventure in the first place. Like, they sort of play on him being the churchy one. Don't know where Rod is. Rod's possibly not in this episode at all. Rod's not a part of things. I didn't know Maude was in it until I was doing this, to be honest. I did always kind of wonder, like, because Ned goes and helps Homer and stuff, but Maude not really got a role. She's not responding to the idea that Todd could show up in the morgue either. She's
not responding to any stimulus. It's almost like she's catatonic. She doesn't blink or move while they're all having this discussion around her. And it's not even like, well, at least Rod's safe, so let's make sure we go find Todd. It's just like no response whatsoever. It's absolutely bonkers. What's going through her mind?
I'd like to speculate that she possibly like an unseen side adventure where, Maude and Rod were doing something in the house a bit earlier than this, and not purposefully, but through her own fault, Rod's got hurt somehow. He's sprained his arm or something. So Rod, I like the idea that Maude is stood here catatonic because she knows that although Rod is safe, she still has to tell Ned that she's hurting, and Todd might be in the morgue.
Things are looking bad, and so you would see that there's the fight, flight, or freeze response, right? And Maude's clearly in this state in the freeze response. She's just essentially reached such a level of stress with this that week after week, either she or her children are in absolute mortal danger. And at this point, I think she just got some like PTSD stuff, and she just essentially shut down.
Yeah, seems that way, but it doesn't continue on throughout the scene because she does display some emotions.
Oh yeah, like with the next little bit of the clip, she actually goes bonkers. So let's move on to that. So Homer is like having enough of this. He punches his fist and he shouts, "There's something we can do." And he gets Marge and he goes, "Come on, everybody, let's go to Shelbyville and get those kids back ourselves." Maude, there's a little bit of a turn of the head, now a slight response, something shaking her, but still stone cold statuesque. Homer says, "I've got an RV we can use." Flanders is, and he points to this big, this caravan truck, motorhome, and this finally is what spurs Maude into frantic action, and she claps very, very fast like a seal. Like her arms are together, and she's clapping like 1,000 claps a minute, and that just got me. I was like, what's going on with Maude? She just sprung into frantic action, and where did the RV come from? And that got me thinking about Maude as a driver. Does she drive? And how would she handle an RV?
Yeah, I don't think we've ever seen her drive, but I like to imagine that she can. Probably not the RV though. Maybe too much for her. None of the wives go with them. Like Maude isn't the only one sort of in this situation, but she's sort of it's weird that she just starts cheering up on. Maybe she didn't want this RV because it has to have come recently. Because this is the first time we've ever seen it. So maybe Ned again, a bit too impulsive, bought it, and now she's thinking, well, if Homer destroys it, we can probably get some some money on the insurance for that, and it's a win-win for Maude. But yeah, she's no interest in going helping Todd herself. But there's sort of a little arc we could run through this if we really tried. In that when Marge shot the gun in the hairdressers, it sort of shut Maude down or put her on this train of thought that sent her into this catatonic state of like not being herself in this dark path that eventually led her on to shoot Mr. Burns.
I like this hole you're digging. Previously, you could argue that her response to danger was like a mental flight. So she didn't actually run away from danger, but she essentially just ignored it and somehow managed to bypass it. And so it's essentially the same as kind of like running away, but now she's hit this point. And I think she gets over it quickly, but I'm sure we'll see her again soon in danger. She doesn't seem to ever stray very far from me. But I think you're building up some clues that say that maybe in a Jack the Ripper style reveal, the actual murderer of Mr. Burns, although he doesn't die, is Maude Flanders. This is what you're pitching for right now, isn't it?
Possible. There's not strong evidence saying that she didn't do it, other than him, saying it was Maggie. But there's ways around that too.
Tell us of those ways.
Yeah, there's a theory online that he said that it was Marge, and because of his previous interest in Marge, he didn't want to rat Marge out, so he said Maggie. And it's still semi-possible that he has a secret, and he's filming her. Yeah, he could have some kind of secret like for Maude and think the only person I can really send down here is the baby. But again, there was a lot of other things like Simpson DNA, etc., that hinders the idea. But again, we can't let that stand in the way of this podcast.
Exactly. I want to know what's going on with that clapping, because that's mad.
Yeah, again, she's too excitable for the situation at hand, which makes me think that she's in somewhat of a dream state, that she's just sort of moving through this episode without reacting to it, which isn't out of character.
No, it's like some traumatic series of events happened that meant that she just couldn't react to dangerous or uncomfortable situations with any kind of reality or honesty. She always just greets them with a smile or with a visit to her happy place and ignoring it.
Yeah, or again, that she doesn't particularly want this RV and she's kind of cheering on the ultimate destruction of that, which I don't think happens. I don't think anything bad happens to the RV.
So we never see it again?
Yeah, they sort of have the rest of the adventure in Shelbyville with it, and then Ned shouts, "Eat all of our shirts."
I thought that was Skinner.
Maybe. No, Skinner says something about eating shorts at some point, but I'm pretty sure Ned says, yes, eat all of our shirts.
Yeah, I don't know where they park that RV, to be honest.
No, there isn't any space, so they must have some kind of, like parking lot somewhere that they leave it, maybe like an RV lot, and it's secure there until it's necessary, and maybe the Flanders were planning on using it for personal reasons, but didn't get around to that because Homer took it. But again, maybe it's just new and they haven't thought about parking it. They could park it easily on the drive if they put the car in the garage.
For the rest of eternity, and we don't, so who knows?
Maybe it'll make a return, but I don't think so.
Well, maybe we'll find out in Maude's diary. Who knows? Maybe Maude made an entry on what happened to the RV and why it so suddenly appeared and then so suddenly disappeared. Maybe she had a hand in it. Maybe she put the foot in. Maybe the foot has spoken, and that's why, as quickly as Neddy impulsively bought it, he sadly took it back to the RV dealer and traded it in for a right-handed car, not a left-handed RV.
Maybe she put her foot down in the car and drove it into a river.
I mean, I'd like to think that Maude could be trusted more than that, but to be honest, who knows what kind of devious and psychotic acts she gets up to off camera. We only see her at her most reasonable.
I agree. We see her at her best.
We do. We see, even when she's at her worst, we see her at her best. Clip 3. Smithers looking ravaged, all messed up, holding a bottle of liquor in the town hall by the looks of it and saying, "Mr. Burns was the closest thing I had to a friend." Maude is sat like 2 rows down, 2 seats down from him, like stone cold again, not moving a muscle. What's got into her? Like, my note is, what's got into her recently? Doesn't even turn her head as Smithers is going on about losing the best friend he ever had. Like, not a flicker of emotion from Maude. Not even if you'll just turn your head, nothing.
No, and I didn't notice, maybe, I don't know if the people around him turn their head, but I think a couple of them do. But
in fact, nobody anything blinks or moves and that doesn't move. I mean, we could break the kayfabe and say it's, lazy animators, but to be honest, it's bizarre because, I think there's 15 people in the scene and one of them blinks like once and the rest of them just sit there with no change of expression.
There's a possibility that nobody really cares about Smithers either because he's the lackey of... He's sort of worse than Burns in a way because he doesn't have the... at least Burns is creatively evil. Smithers is just sort of the one who gets things done for him.
Exactly.
So people probably don't really care for Smithers anyway, but at this point he's sort of done the right thing and turned against Burns after he's wanted to take candy from a baby and all that stuff. I think this meeting's about the fact that he's sort of just ruining the town, like with the oil that they kind of found. And
that makes sense. I was thinking he was crying because Burns had been murdered, but no, he's crying because Burns has turned into this super evil monster, right?
Yeah, and then fired him.
This is the scene where I think Janice Rubler pops up. So if you look at your phone, you've sent me a picture, and the picture is my screenshot of a woman who sat just in front of groundskeeper Willie, who I would like to think is Janice Rubler.
I can be on board with that. Yeah, she has a similar look to young Hubler, even though I just drew a white Janie.
You did draw a variation on Janie, but this, if we did accept that this was Janice Rubler, then we've got Ruth Powers, Janice Rubler, Laurie Goodman, and they're all Maude supporters. Did you have another character earlier that I've forgotten? Did you mention someone?
Sarah Wiggum.
Sarah Wiggum, of course, her cousin, maybe her cousin.
Yeah, potentially.
Clip 4. Bart's dog comes into the town hall. He's got that kind of those kind of that plastic kind of a funnel thing around his head, and his back wheels are in a trolley, kind of so they can't use them. They're all bandaged up, and Maude's looking on in mild concern at this dog coming down the aisle, but she's got good posture as always. We cut to Bart, Maggie, Lisa, Marge, Skinner, and Agnes, and two women that I've never seen before. The dog comes mournfully down the aisle, and we hear a familiar chortle at the door. Maude's got her arms folded, and she turns with a kind of haughty, kind of annoyed look on her face to seize Mr. Burns. And I comment, does she still like him? Is there still something in her where she's still giving him, after all these times, the benefit of the doubt? Burns clasps his hands together. Oh, those wheels are squeaking a bit. Perhaps I can sell him some oil. The dog growls. Bart shouts, "You twisted old monster," and runs for Burns. You get a vague approximation of Maude looking on, basically just a scribble, like a Maude scribble. Burns wags his finger, opens his jacket up to present a gun. Over Bart's shoulder, we see the sea captain and Maude with very goofy eyes, like her head has been spun around and her eyes have been popped out. Burns says, "I've decided to protect myself since I was attacked by an unknown assailant." And we hear Homer shout, "No!" Yeah,
Burns has certainly kicked things up a notch from being kind of generally evil anyway, but he's actively he blew up the treehouse by accident, which led Tanner's little helper to end up in a wheelchair. And then he's just openly laughing at this crippled dog in front of the town and offering to sell some of the oil that he's just stolen from half of the people at the meeting, and then threatens the same 10-year-old with a gun. Sideshow Bob would be happy with these shenanigans, but he's in jail. Maude, I do think that, again, it just sort of leads into Maude deciding to shoot Mr. Burns, but I still think at this point, she's heard the stories, but we've not really seen her around him doing anything particularly bad. So she's heard the stories, but everything that she's seen of him has been pretty good. So until this point, I still think she thinks people are maybe giving him a rough time, and that he can't be truly evil. And then this is the first time she's sort of seeing that he is maybe outmatching her in hatred of this town.
Yeah, so maybe this is kind of we do know that Maude can flip on a sixpence. So maybe this is she's been giving him the benefit for a while. At the beginning, she really liked him when he bought the car from the Leftorium and was generally looked like a nice chap. But little by little, she's soured, and now this is flipped. Oh, now this is psychotic. Maude has decided to take things into her own hands. It's certainly, in the grand scheme of whodunits, it certainly would be a twist. Because other than standing directly behind the sea captain as he threatens her, Burns, she plays no part in this whatsoever. It certainly would be a turn up for the books.
But isn't that just like her to dip in and out before the action happens?
Yes, maybe the mob fired her up. She went there, did it, and then she was back in time to stuff her face with some ice cream and do some knitting before tea.
But it's the perfect alibi of everybody in town, sort of. If they have this impression of, oh, you know what Maude Flanders is like, she'll come to the meeting, but she won't hang around. So the fact that she isn't around afterward is sort of, character traits have sort of done her a favour there, in that she could make an exit and it wouldn't be weird.
Nobody would suspect a single thing.
Nobody suspects the butterfly.
Exactly. The Maudler did it.
Yes.
Alrighty, so this is all still part of the same clip here. This is the last straw for the town, and they turn on Burns, Apu, Skinner, Sideshow, Mel, Otto, and the sea captain. And the sea captain leaps to his feet and shouts, Burns, your scurvy schemes will earn you a one-way passage to the boneyard. And he does the slitting of the throat thing. And Maude, and this is really weird, I've never seen it happen in any episode before, Maude is directly behind him. So, as he turns his head, you can just see bits of Maude's face and head. I've never seen them do that anywhere else where there's another character directly behind the main one for no good reason. It serves no purpose, and it must have just made things way harder.
I think it's a continuity sort of. I think even though Maude seems to, if you watch the scene as a whole, where Maude and Ned are sat, sort of changes every time they cut out to do like a slightly worse drawn pan across the room. Maude and Ned are really close to the front, but then when they're needed, they're at the back. And I think it's just every time the sea captain speaks, Maude and Ned are in the background for it. So I just imagine they were Maude's still supposed to be knocking about, but it is weird that she's probably just because he's bigger as a character, but just directly in front of you. You can't see her at all until he moves.
Yeah,
it is strange.
For her, see bits of her behind his head as he's moving. It's a weird choice.
And then Ned says my favourite Ned line for a while, which is I'd like to hear from Sideshow now.
Yeah, I wrote this one down. I liked it as well. It says, great line, kind of weird. Ned just says, I'd like to hear from Sideshow Mal. And then we do hear from Sideshow Mal, right?
Yeah, just needed to push the plot forward clearly. And Ned was the character next to the sea captain, so it could have been Maude, but Ned got the... And it is sort of funnier that Ned says it for some reason, probably because he's more established.
So Maude's seen his violence once again in front of her. And what's her take on it now? Because she seems now she's no longer in that kind of breeze stage. She seems she's the only one, her and Ned are the only ones that don't have angry looks on her face. They have this kind of worried kind of look, but it's not angry.
I think she's taking in the situation. I think she's observing things, and if we are running with this theory that she's going to shoot him, I imagine she's just taking in what's happening at this point. She's noticing how many people are becoming angry. I don't think this was in the clip, but Merc Quimby's already noted how many people are stroking guns. So she's I think this is her just quietly piecing the idea together that she's going to be the one to take this guy down and probably let Homer take the fall for it.
Ideally, that would be great, wouldn't it, if she could send the other one to prison as well?
Yep.
But do you think that's more of a twist? So the big twist was that Maggie did it. Do you think if it then turned out it was a double twist of Maude, is that more of a twist or less of a twist?
I think it's less in real world context because it's just not exciting enough. It's sort of a cop-out twist, whereas Maggie, at least it kept things... It was somebody that you couldn't just guess, because they had a competition where if you guessed who did it, you won a prize. And I think only one person guessed Maggie.
Really?
And it's easy enough to be that person on the internet who goes, oh, I bet it was, Miss Hoover. Because, so I don't think it would have worked. It works well here because she's one of the sole focuses of this podcast.
Yes. So we're not just the internet person that's saying, oh, I bet Maude could have done it. We're better than that.
Yeah, we spent 18 weeks leading up to the idea that she could have done it.
We got a podcast, and therefore that makes it more important than someone who's just on Twitter.
Yes, just better.
Better all around. Clip 5. So Burns is holding a remote, and he says, you ever see the sun set at 3 p.m? The sea captain shouts, aye, when I was sailing around the Arctic. Burns shouts, shut up, you. As I said, everyone looks angry except for Maude, who looks worried. Ned's got kind of a neutral look on his face, maybe worried, but Maude looks actually worried. But Homer's snarling, Marge, Apu, Maude, and Burns says, take one last look at the sun. We just get a snatch of Maude's take on this. The darkest, literally the darkest hour in Simpsons history so far. And she's sort of, I don't think she likes what's happening because it's chaos that's out of her control. Usually when the chaos is happening around her, it's to do with it's their car in the car chase, etc. Whereas this is something she can't do anything about this, and she doesn't know what's going to happen from
from it. But I think this is the sort of time when she's making the decision, like, yeah, I'm gonna put an end to this guy. Because moments later, Krusty runs in and says, like, hi, what have I missed? And it shows everybody looking angry. Ned included, I think, but Maude is no longer present.
Where's Maude gone? A segment that we discontinued after one episode of Where's Maude? But in this case, it could be of absolute importance at solving this crime. It's 25 years old.
Yeah, that's all I have to really say about it. She's observing things at this point. Is this the last clip?
It's the last clip.
Well, I'll just keep delving into this theory of what she did next after this clip ends, because it goes on for another couple of minutes. He goes around the back, takes the lolly from Maggie, gets shot, is his version of things, but there's always the option that he was taking the lolly from Maggie. Maude approaches, he says, like, oh, you, blah, blah, blah. She pops one in him, hurls the gun into the car, knowing that Homer will touch it at some point, and does one, but she's back in time. She's not in this episode again, but she is. Spoilers, she appears in the background of the news when Mr. Burns is being taken to hospital at the start of part 2.
Which we will pick up at the beginning of season 3. Very interesting. We've got something akin to a cliffhanger. So not only in that part 2 are we looking for Maude, but we're also looking for clues that Maude committed this most heinous of crimes. Though, to be honest, Burns deserved it. Not that I'd say that lightly.
We can, the season 3 Maudecast will definitively answer the question, did she do it? There's the sell. There's the hard sell.
So, we've still got one more episode left of the season, which is going to be a secret, which we'll reveal at the end of the episode, maybe. I think so. That would make sense.
After the roaring success of the Stewcast.
Sorry?
After the roaring success of the Stewcast, it felt right to do it again.
This one's going to be even more success. So that's it for our content this week. Anything you want to tell these good people before we move on?
No, I think that's it. I think I'm going to rewatch this Mr. Burns episode with fresh eyes, because I was, for the most part, riffing with that. I think if I go back and watch it, I can probably thinly connect some more clues together.
Well, I hope so. Get that detective hat out, Sherlock, and get on your bike and ride. Not to mix metaphors. Would you like to explain this next section, the Maude art today? Because this is a piece of art that you sent to me off the Instagram internet platform, which is absolutely delightful. And you'd like to give us the skinny on it?
I just kind of stumbled. I think I have certain tags that it shows up, if people have put that tag rather than, I don't think I was following this person, but I am thoroughly now.
Hashtag Simpsons, so, they're definitely, I'll give them kudos for their tagging technique, because this definitely is connected to that TV show.
Yeah, it's a great image. It's the family on the couch, and Ned's looking a bit memey and a bit glum, and Rod and Todd, I think, are supposed to be like pogo sticks, and I think Rod and Todd are my favourite thing about this, even though the Maude is somewhat phenomenal. She looks very Ghost Rider-y with her kind of blue skull and a sort of ectoplasm-y kind of stuff. What's that? Is it that Spider-Man costume? Like Spirit Spider or something?
Well, Ghost Spider? Spider-Gwen?
Where he's just like a white suit and his head's just like a flaming skull.
A Spider-Man whose head's a flaming skull?
Yes. I only know this from the game that came out last year, but all the costumes were based on something. I think it was called Spirit Spider.
I mean, that would be an amalgam of Ghost Rider and Spider-Man.
It would.
Yeah.
But she looks.
It's from that PlayStation 4 game, right?
Yes, but I think Incredible Hulk Annual 1.
Really? So he's actually a real character from the Spider-Man universe. I'm a pretty big fan of the Spider-Mans, but I've never seen him before. It's amazing. It's very good.
It's a good one, isn't it? Yeah, but this is a great depiction of Maude. You can't, other than the context and the cardigan, it's not Maude in the sort of features. It's just sort of a skull, which makes sense because features have rotted away.
Yes, they're on the couch, and we've got the Flanders written over. It would have been the Simpsons, but it's cool writing. And Ned's got this kind of very woody, he looks like he's made from the trunk of a tree. He's looking very glum, and he's holding one of Maude's crucifix cookies in his hand that comes up. Maude, yeah, she's got no arms or legs. She's just a floating torso with ectoplasm, hair and body coming off this skull. Yeah, it's very Ghost Rider. It reminds me of the cover of Super Furry Animals' Wing album, and also it reminds me of when later, spoiler alert, when Ghost Maude comes back and she turns into the scary one, Maude that we'll talk talk about later. Rod and Todd just once like a pogo's like a face, or like his face is a stick. Obviously, if you're listening to this on Apple iTunes or whatever, you're gonna have to imagine this, but it's by an artist called Minxi.shi, MINXI.SHI, which seems like a Chinese name, but from everything else suggests that this person maybe it's Portuguese, Brazilian, maybe. Great piece of art. It's really wacky. And Rod and Todd, in fact, every single one of them, this is a really cool take on the Flanders character. It's bonkers.
It's good. It's weird that Ned and Maude are sort of somewhat loosely connected to her. It's obviously like distorted, but they're still sort of human. Whereas Rod and Todd are very it's like they're taken from two different images. And imagine there's like a Ned and a Maude where like Maude's a crucifix, but it looks like Maude, etc. But like a different one where Rod and Todd are in this, but they look kind of human. But the loose connection I can think of is they had there's like an imaginary Christmas. Ned says to Rod and Todd, we're going to have like an imaginary Christmas, and they say like yay, and one of them starts pretending to be bouncing on a pogo stick. That's sort of the only real connection I can think of.
I mean, I'm all for obscure references, so if that's the case, kudos Ning-Shi. If you want to get in touch and tell us what the bejesus was going on in your mind, but I'm giving it 9.6 mods out of heaven.
Yeah, I'm going to give it a 12 mods out of 10.
Fantastic. Well done, Ming-Shi. I did look into their Instagram. Nothing else was, although there's some cool drawings, nothing else Simpsons related, which again is a bizarre choice, but there's some cool graphic design in there, so you can check them out. All right.
Yeah, good page.
Anything else you'd like to add?
No, just good art worth looking at.
Exactly. And I'm a fan of that. So do you have a page of Maude's diary that you'd like to share with us before we wrap up this very fine episode of the Maudecast?
I do.
And if you wonder why it's so echoey in here, it's because we're in the caves beneath the Maude Flanders Internet Museum database while we gather ourselves to sort out this cat. So to sort out this cat gremlin situation.
Curry.
And the curry.
Curry, gremlin milk.
Exactly.
Yeah, I do have a page. I'm just trying to flick through to the right one.
It is a big book. Does it have an index and contents? Because a diary normally wouldn't, but this kind of stuff I wouldn't put past Maude.
No, and it's also not written, again, maybe just to befuddle people in the future, but she's not written it in chronological order. Like she was written some page, like day 4 is on page 4, but then day 5 she's written on like page 150.
That's uncharacteristically disorganized. I'd be interested in what led her to make that decision.
Like she wanted to dismantle the view of diaries as a whole.
Oh,
but here is a page. I do have a page. This is surprisingly, this page is from after she's dead.
It says, "Dear diary, I am in heaven now," but you already knew that because I've carried on writing in this ghost version of you. I'm getting to know everybody pretty well. It's quite nice up here. I can look down on Rod and Todd and the husband whenever I sort of feel like it. So now it's sort of like I'm a viewer of their adventures. Rod's had a duck race or something with that today, and then climbed up a chapel, and I was really proud to look down and watch him, but then God and I think it was Bob Hope ruined it by just being like snarky and really irritated me. So I'm a bit annoyed with God at the minute. So I'm just sort of in my little cottage on a cloud, just mulling it over whether because I've been told I have the option to return as a ghost or I can stay in heaven. So I'm just sort of mulling it over. But I've asked God to put a curse on Helen Lovejoy just so I've got something to watch. If he comes through on that, then I'll probably stick around. Jared?
Well, that's a very cosmopolitan ending. There's many things that I'd like to ask about this. First of all, a plague of a locust on Helen Lovejoy. But so do you think she's pretending to be in heaven and she wrote this before she died, or do you think genuinely that somehow she's able to write with real ink in a way that you can read from beyond the grave?
The latter.
The latter.
Sign.
Do you think it's a genuine ghostly entry into the diary?
They sort of, because there's a lot of blank pages, and occasionally I'll open the diary and they won't be blank anymore.
What do you make of that? That's spooky.
The most recent one said, "I'm watching you. Stop it off with the podcasts."
Oh, good Lord. I'm not sure I like the way that's going. That's a little bit too close to home, Nathan.
To meta. That's what it says.
Not meta enough. I think, I really, really hope that we in season 3 don't end up actually being haunted by the ghost of Maude Flanders, because I wasn't prepared for that going into this. I thought this would just be a fun ride through the backyards and highways and byways of Maude. I didn't expect to actually summon up a poltergeist.
Pandora's Maude.
Well, let's not dwell on that. I mean, as exciting as it would be if Maude actually started to take time out of her fictional life to haunt us, like in the TV show, the 80s sitcom So Haunt Me, which I'm sure I think our viewers are all familiar with. So we've reached the end of a very calm and delightful episode of the Maude cast, episode 19. And as is our format, that means that the last episode of this season, before we take a 3 or 4 week break, will be a special non-Maude-centric episode. So would you like to keep these people in suspense another second longer and tell them who's going to be in episode 20?
After much deliberation and me pushing the characters that I briefly got attached to whilst watching a single episode, like Edna or Sarah Wiggum, we've decided on Poochie.
The
So we're going to be looking at the life and death of Poochie the dog.
He's doubly fictional.
He is.
Sometimes
he's not.
Sometimes he's singularly fictional, and other times he's doubly fictional. So we can delve into that. How meta are we going to get? But I'm looking forward to it. I thought the Stewcast was fun. Obviously, the listening populace didn't take it quite as well as the others.
I really enjoyed the Stewcast.
And I'm just amazed we're still here 19 episodes in. So shall we celebrate with a song?
Sure.
Who's going first?
You.
Kids wandering around, nerd with glasses, database.
Todd database team up.
Ned says he's called the police. They'll fax if they find them in the morgue. Morgue. I've got an RV, Maude, stay away from the morgue.
Rhubarb juice.
Van Ventures, does Maude drive the RV into the lake?
Turnip juice.
Stone cold, turnip juice. Freezing PTSD, turnip juice.
Lemon juice.
My dog can't walk. My dog's got no nose. How does it smell? More terrible.
Oil.
Goofy eyes.
Gunshot in the car park.
Squeaky wheels.
Taking candy from a baby.
He kept in threats.
Sideshow Mel.
Murderer Maude, cliffhanger.
Dr. Colossus.
Murderer Maude, cliffhanger.
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 Poochie.
Cliffhanger. We did it. We made it to pretty much the end of season 2. And I got a message, a celebration message just before we go from Son of Sonny Bono. Gave a message on my YouTube. I didn't know you could even leave audio comments. You want to stop using my song on the end of your podcast. It's rubbish. I don't even care about Maude Flanders, and you can stop it right now, or I'll take your court. I'll take your asses to court, you bitch. Beep. So Son of Sonny Bono, I'm sorry, but you can probably already hear the song starting. I'll see you in court.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye. Good job.